So it's VE Day. If you saw my post on Facebook or Instagram of my wonderful granddad Ramage, you will notice instantly that he looks unbelievably like me. Like, it's one of those photos, but I've always known it, right? That he's always looked like me. But even I, looking at that photo, could just spot that. It's like uncanny sort of resemblance. Those genes are strong in our family. But here's the thing about those genes in our family. You might also notice, well, you probably won't notice from the photo because he's got a big, like, flowery thing on because it's VE Day. But all of my family have got dark hair. Right, so there's been a running joke in our family for years. They've all got dark hair, and then I popped out this random ginger, right? And it was rumoured, viciously so, that the milkman never took his hat off the day I was born. Vicious, unjustified rumours, and only that the genes are so strong that I am the image of my dad, who's the image of my granddad. That genetics really flows through the three of us, that we quashed those vicious rumours. But anyway, yeah, I'm sure you can see the resemblance. So today I just wanted really to salute those heroes of the past and the heroes of the present. And I think there's so much learning when you reflect on what our grandparents or parents went through in the First World War, Second World War. I've been lucky enough to travel with my brothers and my dad. We went out to the First World War, the fields, Flanders, all those sort of places. We did the Second World War as well, to trace the steps of where my granddad was, where my great-granddad was. Because I think that's really important. I think it's really important to go and see what they did for us and what they went through. And when you're in the mix of those beautiful fields out in France and Belgium, you just can't believe the horrors of actually what went on. But there is that chance to connect with it or get close to it, and you realise that it just must have been, I think it's probably the most barbaric thing that anyone could ever possibly go through as a human being. I just think there's little less worse that you could go through. And here they were, these young men and women, just ripped out of their normal lives and just dumped into this foray at the age of, like, my granddad was sort of 19 and 20 years old. Just like, we can't even get it into our heads, can we? We can't even compute what that must have been like to suddenly just go from normal life to that brutality of just seeing other people decimated. Like, his first regiment was almost obliterated. He was moved into another regiment then, which are famous for the polar bears, the polar bear butchers, right? That says it all. So he was part of this elite fighting force. Imagine what they experienced, like, around them, and what they did and had to do themselves. I mean, that just must have just changed everything. And the truth was, it did. My granddad came back at 21, and my nan will always tell you, my dad will say the same, but he was never the same after that, right? And understandably so, right? Never the same again. You know, all of those young men and women that went through that were forever changed, right? And they did that for us, ultimately. They did that for us, for our freedom, and this wonderful, like, period that we've had since then of, you know, so much in terms of, you know, vibrancy and energy and development and material wealth and all those wonderful things that many of us have been lucky enough to experience. Is down to them, that sacrifice that they made. And my granddad was lucky enough, he came out the other side, he survived. So many people didn't. And even while that was going on, just imagine my nan again, right? All our grandparents and parents went through a similar thing. My nan was in London listening to the doodle bugs, which she would talk about very often, fly overhead. They had to evacuate and hide in the underground because we're from the East End of London, our family, and they were bombed. So my nan was bombed. They were caught. They were stuck in the underground, the rubble. She thought she was dead. She definitely thought it was all over, and then she escaped. They got her out and she survived. So not only was her husband, like, fighting in this brutality of the war at home on their own soil, going through that unbelievable hardship and unsettling times, and here we are, right, going through something that's a smidge, in truth, of that experience, but it is probably the most monumental thing in many of our lives that we've been through, right, that has that sense of sort of uncertainty and turbulence and calamity and all those things, like, mixed into one. Even though, you know, it's a fraction of what they went through, I think it's an experience that we can all adapt, right? And I think their courage is a wonderful beacon for us all to reflect on what they did for us, and not only in putting themselves in harm's way for us, what they did post the war to rebuild the planet effectively and our nation and all of those things that they went through to gift us this wonderful opportunity that we've been given in life. And we're going to face a similar situation pretty soon. We're going to have to rebuild our lives on the back of this type of war in many ways that everyone's been through. And I think if we reflect on their courage, I think it gives us a lot of courage in the present, and also to salute our modern day heroes, those key workers that have suddenly, blossomed onto our radar, that were probably in truth, and I was as guilty of this as anyone, been overlooked up until now, are not as appreciated as they should be. Those amazing men and women, again, putting themselves in harm's way for us. I just think that's so beautiful. And I think that, again, for me, I always look to the green shoots. You know that. And like wherever I look at the moment, I'm just seeing the most miraculous stories of hope and courage and generosity, right? That fills me with sort of a sense of pride and hope for the future, because I think that's inherent in human nature. When we're called upon and the conditions are right, some of the most beautiful things come out. I get it. At the same time, you can see some horrific things, but in amongst all of that rubble, there's always those green shoots of hope and generosity and kindness beyond belief. And we're just seeing story after story after story after that. And I think that really helps us culturally connect with the fact that on a real basic human level, I think we do show up when we need to. And our grandparents and our parents are a brilliant example of that, that's happened before us in the circumstances way more horrific than this has ever been in truth. And I think we can reflect on that, and also reflect on our modern day heroes that have come out of the woodwork. And it's not even just the key workers, it's those stay-at-home parents that have managed to juggle, or managing to juggle, kids and homeschooling and jobs, or jobs that maybe are not there anymore. All that threat and all that uncertainty. And I think what it shows me today more than anything on reflection is that we will get over this. We will come back from this, no matter how dire your circumstances. Our forebearers and our grandparents and parents went through things that were ultimately thousands times worse. And here we are to tell our story. So I think, VE Day has filled me with reflection and hope, I think, for the future of an exciting time to come. And I think it's time to rebuild and use their strength and their courage from the past, because it's all there for us, and apply that to our present day situation, so that we can actually come out of this and then rebuild and look forward to a brighter future for our children, right? That's what it's about. It's about us doing our bit for our children, so they can be as lucky as we've been for the last 75 years since that Second World War, so they can experience all the wonderful things that we've experienced, and hopefully in a different way, so that our planet stays around a bit longer. But that's a subject for another day. Anyway, let's just see who's on.